All shift, as you all know, is about people who think differently, people who shift the game. I'm so happy that today we will have someone who has not just thought very differently and created such a big impact on the industry, but has also shaped and shifted my own journey back in the days. I'm in a city very close to my heart in Pune, meeting someone who is very, very special. I consider to be one of the topmost fans of this gentleman. Someone who has a long list of accomplishments, someone who's made an impact at multiple levels, from being the CEO and having scaled a global tech services organization. Post that, started and led a cloud networking company, and post that, uh, created Pune's and India's the startup ecosystem. But most fascinatingly, he now puts enormous energy and his time in reforestation, something which is so important for the greater good of the world. But if I consider myself to be a fanboy, I know someone who is probably going to push me aside and say, I am the number one fan of this gentleman. So I am going to request Shantanu Deshpande, who is the founder and CEO of Bombay Shaving Company, and the elder son of Kiran Deshpande, to really introduce Kiran to all of you.
Hi. So everyone who's been around dad knows him to be very intelligent, very smart, very driven, you know, uh, very focused on his work, and an exceptionally warm human being. I have always seen his colleagues start off as colleagues, especially as I got older. I was around 16, 17 when he started Mojo, and I saw young engineers from at that time I was preparing for the IIT exams. I would see young IITians come and join Mojo, and I would be very enamored by the kind of by the kind of relationship my dad at that time, he was 48, 49, have with these young 22, 23-year-old kids, almost peer like and warm. So I always felt like he everyone could see and were attracted to him for all of these very obvious things. But as I observed him from a distance, from close quarters, and also now as I've started Bombay Shaving Company, very close, I kind of work with him on certain things. The one constant for the last at least 30 years of my consciousness has been that his work ethic is phenomenal, and his work ethic does not change as per the kind of work. So whether it's doing something very small or doing something very big, his work ethic is very, very constant. He will make sure his detail orientation, his commitment, his like, I'll give you an example. I'm sure if it was about a large pitch deck or about a customer presentation or about a large review inside the office, I'm sure he puts in the effort and makes sure the document and the details and everything is top notch. But he also is someone who helps with my mom's yoga classes thrice a week, where they do yoga classes, where she does yoga classes for her friends and family pro bono, and everyone joins a Zoom call, and they've been doing it for last 6-7 years now, and she teaches for an hour, and he is like the person. He also participates, she demonstrates with him. He has taken every participant and every asana, every exercise, and every class and created a detailed Excel model from which you can then take out which person did what is their attendance, when did they do this, when did they learn a particular asana, etc. And it's the most detailed Excel model possible. He also is, for example, my finance manager. So you have to file taxes in the US, in India, all my PMSs, all the investments, etc. Because dad is around and his work ethic is at play, I don't have to do much. He is so deeply involved in talking to the managers, making sure that he's on top of things. All my tax filings, all the paperwork is in proper Google Drives, and again, it's just that work ethic. And I think that is one thing that I wish I could have even 10% off, because he's incredible, and that is what truly distinguishes him from his peers and from others, is that the ethic of effort is just top notch, and it's very inspirational. So hopefully you enjoy this conversation with Manish, and get glimpses of this. Today also he's he calls himself retired, but he's on calls and on the laptop and on in meetings and going everywhere at the age of 70, like he is 30 years old. And I think it's that energy comes from his commitment to his work, and it's amazing to watch.
Kiran, what do you think of that?
Well, Shantanu is always full of surprises. I'm not surprised that casual but very deep. That's what the boy is. But he once told me that, a lot of things I learned from osmosis, from what you and mom do. We are very glad parents from that way, Manish. And I must add one thing. I've been lucky to be surrounded by colleagues, supervisors, CEOs who have shaped my life also. And you being one of them, remember I threw you off the cliff, and not only you survived, but you climbed back bigger cliffs. So
I
very
can't
lucky.
thank you enough. I can never ever thank you enough for having thrown me into the deep ocean without even telling me how to swim. I really appreciate that. So, Kiran, diving into this conversation, I must start with something which I've always asked you. You were instrumental in building some unbelievable organizations. You learned the institution build very early on from some of the best in the industry. I'm sure there were a lot of feelings that you had from deep inside. For one, I've always considered you my mentor in the art of scaling, and more importantly, art of scaling without losing the soul. Right? You've been absolutely an epitome of that. I'm sure there were moments when you refused many things, when you refused to, when you said no to compromise on certain things. Maybe it slowed you down. Maybe there was one crazy call that you had to take sometimes where you said, "Oh my God, everybody's thinking I'm crazy, but I got to take it." So I just want you to dive back into the past, if possible, before we dive forward, and share some of these nuggets with us.
I think I have tried, or I have not compromised on ethics. There have been situations where here is the business, but comes with an extraordinary consideration that you have to give. And I walked away from those. Walking away from 10 15% of your current revenue run rate because it came with strings attached. I was scared, would the company and everybody else support you on that? I've taken those calls maybe a couple of times, and yes, it may have slowed down, but here I am, you and I talking, so it's not death at all. So I would not compromise on that.
Any one decision that you thought was, everybody said you were crazy, you still took it.
COEs, the centers of
The
excellence,
centers of excellence.
especially, I think the mathematical modeling. Having a PhD in maths in a IT services company, I think people were sort of raised. Security was another one when we created security centers of
Very early days when
very early
people thought security was just the man standing outside.
just man standing outside. I think those were out of the way decisions. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And you're now a CEO, you know that not all your decisions work, but you have to make them and you have to make that call.
One decision you took that actually surprised many is from the height of being at the topmost step of that ladder as a CEO of a very large corporate. You decided to suddenly become an entrepreneur of a startup. You started a company in a field where, um, you know, people would say was way ahead of its time. To think of cloud when nobody understood cloud in the current context.
Yeah.
Now people would think cloud not as the badal, as the cloud, but something else. And you started that, but I'm sure there was some driving force behind. There was some urge, some inspiration behind it. But also, what were the big company CEO things that you took with you as you brought into a founder CEO avatar?
Role. Yeah. Our industry, computer science, software, computers in general, is at best 50, 60 years old. If you recall the slide I had, which is 60 years of computing, and we are still only maybe 25, 30% into the game. The next 50 years are going to be big. I think that piece has kept us on the toes in our thinking. Because new things are emerging, you are sometimes creating new things. So I think that genre or DNA that we created, because I feel lucky that at my age, I could enter this industry 45 years back. And so went through that journey of 45 years. Uh, and you talked about how did I leave from there. I think that whole Y2K, which grew the industry in the late 90s, got the industry on a growth path in terms of volume. The researcher or the computer science person in me was always asking, where is the productivity?
Hmm.
You know, automakers make a new car at the same price, and we were charging more and more. And I said that is not the right model. A CEO who's a good friend, he asked me, how long is this going to continue? I said, I don't have an answer as a computer science person, but somewhere it has to stop. And I think we are seeing that thing. 25 years into industry, having built a company, the technologists in me trying to see what else to do. Best way is to step aside
And do an experiment.
and do an experiment.
Now, I really, really applaud you for what you did then and how you eventually created and sold the company to uh, a Bay Area major. Was unbelievable story. It's one of the worst early success of a startup from
Yeah,
product.
I was lucky to meet Dr. Praveen Bhagwat at a IIT Kanpur conference, and he had the idea. We met at a coffee shop, and off we went without much thinking. Sometimes Praveen tells me, if you knew all the hassles along the way, we would not have started. But that's the way it is, and always all entrepreneurs are like that.
Funny you say that because when I was thinking of doing something different recently, and I consulted with you and consulted with many of my mentors, including some very successful entrepreneurs. Funnily enough, almost all of them, without exception, said, if I had to do it again, I would not do it.
Correct.
Right? But there's one thing that I would like to ask you is, the software industry has been disrupted many times. The hardware industry has been also disrupted many a times. The services industry that you were born into back 45 years ago, you brought me in 25 years ago. That really has not. It remained a people base. Maybe the last disruption was when the world found offshore, right?
Yeah.
But the true disruption, your point about engineering productivity never really happened. My hypothesis, as I joined hands and came to Prodapt, which is a fascinating company, is that we can now disrupt this people-based services model because AI has got this first principle concepts of saying, I can do what you can do and faster. Hence, why do you need so many people? You can make things happen. What's your take? Because everybody is preaching AI. What's your take on what's practical AI for you?
See, AI can cross a huge bandwidth, right from very disruptive, innovative thinking, computing, intelligence that is close to human intelligence. And there is a lot more research needs to happen there. And there are models there. That is one part. The second part of AI is learning along the way because we have so much of data and now using the technology that is available through APIs today to create more intelligence into existing systems. I think the second part is doable. It is already happening. Uh, it will go through certain conversion cycles where it will look immature,
Yeah.
but it will happen. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is that software went from being used only by enterprise users to consumers to now people who don't know computers.
Yeah.
Don't know computer, they still have to use software. And I think software has to be easy, intuitive, intelligent. And that's where I think that part of AI can be immediately applied. Call it agentic, call it learning, call it machine learnable databases. There is a lot of stuff that is, I think we are sometimes I feel we're going back to the old times when innovative decisions on design of data, design of algorithm, all of that was being done to create systems which took the discipline forward.
Mhm.
We are back to that cycle again, powered by AI.
Awesome. No, fantastic. And that's where we are truly excited about being part of the industry at this time.
Correct.
Where one could be part of the disruption cycle,
Exactly.
reimagine a scenario where you're not just doing services, you're doing services, but by way of delivering a software
Correct.
and also delivering an outcome in the process.
Absolutely.
So the whole concept of alt shift as a series is I would love to talk to leaders like you who who've had a checkered career, but doing some very amazing things now, but also have a piece of advice to the next gen. So if you were to advise to a host of next gen set of people, whether they are entrepreneurs, whether they are next gen workers who would want to enter the industry, what would be the few advices that you would give them?
So, your adoption of technology is very high when you are young. I remember Bill Gates mentioning once that 45 years of age is when your adoption starts going down.
Down.
So, if you're young, AI may be very natural to you. There are people who started using laptops very naturally. We did not. There is a younger generation who started using mobile phones. They don't like laptops. They like this thing. So I think the next generation tools is very important. I would also mention that semiconductor chipsets, life sciences, they are coming together where next 20, 30 years could be very interesting on the medical side, the lifestyle, everything else. Core of all of that is software.
Yeah.
And that has not gone away. So if you're in that field, I think the more exciting time is coming now.
And from a talent standpoint, right? In terms of nurturing talent, I would love to get your views on it. But before I do that, I know that from a distance, what Shantanu does in his company, in Bombay Shaving Company, is pretty magnificent in terms of how he attracts and he retains and he nurtures that talent. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to go back to him and maybe get a quick bite from him in terms of what what do you think, Shantanu, about attracting and retaining talent, not just from a technology context. I mean, it's just an industry that Kiran and I are part of. But from your context, even if it's a consumer product business, ultimately your life is today not untouched by technology. But leaving that aside, just from a pure play talent standpoint, what's your mantra for success in attracting, retaining, nurturing talent in this next phase of this industry? Why don't you come in with that?
Very few people are able to identify, attract, and empower talent the way Dad does. I think what I've noticed, and again, this is more outside in, but from close quarters, is that he is truly a good human being. Truly, he's a generous human being. He is good at heart. There is so much transparency. He says what he thinks and he does what he says, and this is very consistent. He is his moral compass on principles is very, very clearly aligned. And I think his ability to invest in people over long periods of time is incredible. So even people who were with him in his Tech Mahindra days, which is now 30 years back, maybe someone like Manish or Jagdish Uncle, or so many people, I've seen them come home, maybe as when I was in college or later on, and talk to him after 15 years, 20 years, remain in touch, be close. He's guided them through their careers, and that commitment is never never conditional. So what I find truly unique is that it is without agenda. Sometimes as a boss, and you have a junior or you have a peer, it's your own boss, for example, you help them and you are committed to their success because it helps you back. It's a quid pro quo. With him, the expectation of and getting anything in return when it comes to people is zero. He genuinely doesn't expect anything from anyone. He is one of the वैसे very like macros hierarchy at the very top, that way since the beginning, that he doesn't expect from anyone, and that makes his commitment to people very, very pristine. And I think that's what attracts good talent, is that it's unconditional. But he's I think he's selective. I would like him to be more selective than he is. I think he ends up spending a lot of time with people who are just not worth it. He gets taken advantage of a lot. He inordinately spends time with a very mediocre talent, and especially now when he there's a perception that he has more time than he actually does. So when it comes to mentoring founders, he will mentor founders who don't put that much in themselves as I would like. So that's a little frustrating for me. I would like him to be a lot more selective, especially at this age. But that's the flip side of the unconditional commitment to people, that sometimes you will throw darts that don't hit the board. But yeah, I think the goodness of the human, the generosity without expectation, the unconditional commitment to see someone succeed is just top notch. Again, something I learn a lot.
Thanks, Shantanu. Thank you. Kiran, what do you have to add to the whole talent conundrum, if I may?
See, as Manish, you know that as a CEO, as a leader, ability to attract talent is also an art, because you have to sell dream. If you're in a startup, you have to sell a future. If you're in a company which is grown to them, I think that is somewhere, I think, inborn in some people.
Mhm.
So Shantanu is one of those kinds. He can play a prank at you and still you will love him. So, that ability to attract also, what I've seen him is very trustworthy. And I think you and I know that, people work for you because you
They
exhibit
can
that
trust.
trust. You're being fair. You're not always soft, but you're being fair.
Yeah.
And that people like. The other thing which I find is very smart people are very easy to hire because they know they can do things which others can't. And if you can show them a good roadmap, they will come and join you. And I've always been lucky having smart people around me.
How lovely. Thank you so much. Look, we can always go on and on, but one thing that we had decided about this, the design of all shift episodes, is we're going to keep them short, because one other problem with the new generation is we have a small attention span.
Right.
So we don't want to keep going on. So I want to quickly ask you 4 rapid fire questions to end this.
You're asking a test cricketer to play T20 now, is it?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Asking you to give me quick riposte. So a belief that changed you recently, what would that be?
I think branding. I learned branding observing consumer goods company, conversation with Shantanu, and I tried to apply it to our field, which is technology and all that. And then you have companies like Apple, big examples in front of you. I think we spend less time on branding. As leaders, we need to give due to brand, especially in the technology services area. We still have a long. That was my learning over the last 5-6 years.
Amazing, yeah. Because in our industry, sometimes we thought branding was, I mean, how does it matter? It's just a byproduct.
And if I build a good company, branding will come. It doesn't happen. Branding is something that you have to put
I love it.
time and
I agree with you. You know, to change, you need to either stop something or start something. What's more difficult?
you need to stop few things for a change. Because change, the second order equation, the calculus comes into picture. You have to stop something and start something. Both are there. And it's difficult.
That's more difficult.
Yes, it is difficult. You have to stay with it for a while before it becomes second nature. I'll give you a simple example. If I ask you, Manish, are you doing yoga? No, I want to do it. I say, why don't you do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7:30 in the morning? First 4 weeks are tough. And I'm a jogger. I still know that if first 2 kilometers are toughest. After that, you get going.
Yeah.
So you have to build that internal, but you have to stop a few things, which discipline is needed to stop that and start something.
I agree. Yeah, fantastic. A decision that you are still very, very proud of in your life. Besides, of course, we know one's ready answer is the favorite person in your house for all of us is not you. It is Rajni.
Is Rajni.
Right?
Yes.
So besides that, I mean, what's one decision?
I think marrying her. That was the, you can't.
I mean, I've just given you that answer.
I mean, she was my mom's student, and I met her,
There you
and my mom suggested, and I think that was a good decision. I mean, she stayed in spite of all the. She says that like there were 2 CEOs in the house, one Stanford PhD, and she's the one who manages all these 3.
Awesome. So Kiran, just to wind up, maybe one last question, because you've had a phenomenal career. I know some of the amazing powers that you have wielded and you have benefited people from. And we are living in a time when some amazing things are happening thanks to tech. But if there is one superpower that your friends would say you own, you have, what would that be?
Curiosity, and I give my 100%, and I'm not scared to try.
I love it.
Yeah.
Curiosity and not scared to try and give 100%. I mean, I tell you, the The audience that I have been enjoying on this episode are a lot of people who have either started their career or are the early stages of their career. I think, and for that matter, the 45-year-olds as well, people who are, it's not easy to adapt
Yeah.
and adopt at this point, but for curiosity, I guess, trumps. And amazing.
Bring the young guy in you or young gal in you, whatever, whichever way.
Amazing. Kiran, thank you so much.
My pleasure,
As always,
Manish.
you've been very generous with me. I know how short a notice or a lack of notice I gave you even for this, and you agreeing to do this and then sharing these unbelievable nuggets of wisdom mean a lot to me, to every Prodaptian, as we call ourselves, to Prodapt, and to the industry at large. Really, really thank you.
Thank you very much. Proud to see my colleagues reach heights like this and do so well. It gives tremendous inner pleasure. Thank you very much. All the best to everyone, especially to you and all Productians.
All your blessings, sir.
My
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.